Why did Ukrainians vote for Zelensky? To examine this question, we need to go back before the events of 2014. And to remember that, until then, Ukraine was divided to the pro-Western and the pro-Russian part. Something that can be easily demonstrated with the maps of the results of the elections. But then in 2014, the country saw dramatic developments, starting with a strong pro-Western protest that overthrew the pro-Russian president Viktor Yanukovych. And it was the beginning of a civil war, and finally led to a Russian occupation of Crimea. Immediately after these developments, the country had presidential elections, in which Ukrainians seems to be changing their past voting behavior. Instead of choosing pro-Western or pro-Russian leaders like they did before, they clearly chose a more moderate politician, Petro Poroshenko. He was a successful businessman from the south who in the past has collaborated with also pro-Russian and pro-Western parties. This voting behavior went a step further in the elections of 2019, where the Ukrainians elected a person with no previous political experience. His name was Volodymyr Zelensky, a Russian-speaking Jewish comedian and media entrepreneur from the south. During his campaign, Zelensky was using more his native Russian language than Ukrainian, and he ran on a message of peace, basically to put an end to the civil war that was tearing the country apart. It's not a surprise that Zelensky was voted slightly more in the Russian-speaking regions of the south and east. And actually Zelensky tried to pursue peace by talking directly to the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin. Some months after he assumed presidency, they met face to face in Paris, aiming to revive peace talks and find a resolution to the war in the eastern regions of the country. I consider this election result sent to the world a clear indication. It appears that since the beginning of the war in 2014, most Ukrainians didn't want really to choose sides between the West and Russia. Instead, it seems what they really wanted was just peace. And I believe this is what they want until today. Now a year has passed from the official end of Zelensky's presidential term, and I believe there is an urgent need for elections in Ukraine as soon as is practically possible to finally define again the long forgotten will of the Ukrainian people.